Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and I'm very happy to introduce our guest today. They are a seasoned veteran with a rich tapestry of over 2 decades of experience. His journey, much like yours, was filled with some trials, tribulations, and uncertainty that life often throws us. But it's precisely these experiences that have forged him into the person he is today, a true beacon of transformational and an inspiration for others. The name Blue Collar King wasn't just plucked out of thin air by its founder. Instead, it was born from a deep-rooted passion and a lifetime of hands-on experience in the blue-collar world. It's a name that carries with it commitment to excellence and profound understanding of the industry. So please welcome our guest, the Blue Collar King himself, Matt Murray. Matt, welcome to the show.
Yes, awesome. Great intro, Phil. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here today with you and your audience. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I love being a hype man. I figure as a host,
I see that. I feel it. You got me going, you know? It's like, yeah, let's go.
There we go. That's the energy I want brought to the show. So Matt,
Yeah.
we're going to start off with the first question. I want to thank you obviously for being here. But the first question is, why did you become an entrepreneur? What was it that struck you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I started off, I mean, kind of upbringing was blue collar. My parents were blue collar and they worked at the grocery stores. Dad was a meat cutter. Mom was a checker, and they met at, I think it was either Gemco or Lucky Stores eons ago in the 70s, and grew up blue collar. Dad was a mechanic and stuff, always in the garage working on cars. And I can remember being out there with them and always, doing stuff, blue collar stuff, if you will. And I got introduced to air conditioning and refrigeration in 1997 by a family friend of ours who owned an HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning business, and said, hey, you like mechanical stuff? You like working on stuff and wiring up, stereos for cars? That's kind of what air conditioning refrigeration is, a bunch of mechanical stuff and wiring and electronics and stuff. Why don't you come do this? I was like, all right, cool. So I started my journey in the trades in 1997. It was August of 97. And I did that for about 6 years. I worked for the company. And unfortunately, times got tough for them. And we were all pulled in on a Friday, and they basically closed the business and laid everyone off. So I had a side job going on. I was commercial industrial technician, and I had a residential side job going on. That was like a friend or family member or whatever at the time. So my entrepreneur journey, it wasn't really by design. It was more kind of like by default. It just happened to be that I was just going to do a couple side jobs, and then I had to go out and figure out what was the next thing for me. That I was 28 years old in 2003 when this happened. And one side job led to the next, and it just kind of kept going and going. And here I am 20 years later, and I'm still on my summer side job. I've got over 40 employees. I've started 2 companies. I still have one, Evolution Mechanical. I started another company off the backbone of Evolution Mechanical called Ecotech Refrigeration. And I've launched my personal brand and coaching consulting business, the Blue Collar King. So I'm still on my side job. And
you think you'd figure it out by now, get an actual job. But I love this, how you look at it as your side job.
Yeah, it's my side hustle. You know what I mean? It's just what I'm doing.
I love it. And obviously it's doing great for you because you can see the energy that you're bringing. When you had to decide, you didn't really have to decide. You were formally informed that you had to become an entrepreneur pretty much on that Friday. What did it look like? What was you're young, you're like, oh my God, it's 2003, 2001 just happened, and
Yep,
2008 hasn't even been it's 5 years away.
exactly.
What were you worried that you would have to go back and do another 9 to 5, or stay in the blue collar world, or did you have visions of running your own little empire?
Yeah, I did. At first, it was like, whoa, this is actually pretty cool, right? You get that entrepreneur spirit. You're like, whoa, you're on your own and you've got freedom and you're going to be able to control and do everything. So there was that initial burst of like hormones and emotions and energy. But then, like, after a month, you know what I mean? You like wake up in the middle of the night. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I'm in the middle of the ocean by myself now. This is a little bit scary, actually. So yeah, it was weird, you go through these ins and outs where you're like super excited and then you're like, wait, reality, like I literally don't know what I'm doing. And the farther I got down that path, I was a really good technician. I was really good at fixing things and air conditioners and stuff. But about 6 months in, 8 months in, a year in, I how do I keep track of the money? How do I keep track of the invoices? How do I bill customers? How do I go open accounts? Like I was paying with a credit card. I'm like, okay, this isn't working. So the chaos of being self-employed starts to show up very quickly. And I think for some, it might show up in a few months. Maybe some others can hide underneath the radar of reality for a year or so. But all of a sudden, your weaknesses get magnified very quickly. And I realized whatever it was, 8 months, 10 months in, a year in, I literally don't have a clue of what I'm doing. And it was just me and my brother and a helper at that time. So I just kept fighting and struggling and fighting and struggling. But yeah, fear and uncertainty for sure. For about 15 years, it was just up and down, up and down. And I was like, just beating my head on the wall. I would make money, I would lose money, make money, lose money. I would ratchet up a little bit over time, but it was not without excruciating pain.
Oh
Nothing.
God.
I was not the guy that the universe just handed the gravy train road to. It seems like, and maybe the more entrepreneurs I talk to and stuff, they're like, I don't think there's a gravy train road for entrepreneurs. I think it all sucks. It's all
Yeah, I think it's a lie. The gravy train. I think it's the carrot that all entrepreneurs like. Well, yeah, there's a gravy train. It's going to come easy. It's just
yeah,
they're going to back up the truck, dump
yeah.
the money, and everybody's going to be happy.
Yeah, it's not there, right? Or the magic pill, right? Like sign up for my course and we'll fix your business overnight and you don't have to do any work. Yeah, where's that at?
I would love that to come in.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
the limitless pill, from
Uh-huh.
Bradley Cooper's movie, Limitless. That would be just wonderful having all the answers.
It was.
As you were ratcheting up and growing your business as an entrepreneur, were there moments where you're like, maybe it's time that I go back to the 9 to 5, that it's time that I give up this little side quest of mine and go become a real member of society, if you will?
Yes, absolutely. There were many times, especially that voice shows up when cash gets really tight and fear really sets in and anxiety, especially as you hire a couple employees. When I was by myself, I wasn't really too worried. But then when my brother came on board and then we hired a helper and then I hired a girl in the office, for me, I was like, okay, I'm not really worried about myself. I'm a survivalist. I've been my whole life, but now I'm responsible for other people's lives and their livelihood and their rent and bills and food and family. So that stuff really scared me. And I many times I would wonder, like, should I just go get a job? Like I don't like this. Of course, the idea of this futuristic, fantasy land called entrepreneurship and being self-employed sounds amazing. But what's happening, in the current reality is, holy moly, like I don't know what to do, and I don't have people, and I don't have money, and the people owe me money, and all these other scary ass things. You know what I mean? So absolutely, it's a thought all the time. Like just hang it up, go back to work for somebody else because that's safe.
It is safe, and you don't have that worry, like you said, like by yourself running the company. If it's just you, heck, if I have to eat ramens for a month, I'll eat ramens for a month. But now you're taking care of your brother's family, his kids, his wife, his his significant other, then you have the two employees as
Exactly.
well. Like that must have been stress. When in the journey of 2 decades, when did you decide to step back and work on the business instead of in the business?
So the first big like throat punch for me was about 2 years after the recession. So it didn't really hit me until about 2010. So I had started off doing the residential work, and then I got picked up some commercial service accounts, and then got into a little bit of commercial construction, like project work for general contractors, and things were growing. Things were starting to kind of go. It wasn't without with struggles and issues and challenges, of course. But then the recession hit, and I started to hear and see like people were struggling, and they were running out of work, and businesses were closing. And this was in 2008, and I wasn't slowing down. And then in 2009, I was still going. So I had this arrogant, like, attitude, like I must be bulletproof. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but clearly it's working. And I obviously have got it all figured out because I haven't had any issues with this economy thing or recession that everyone's talking about. And then all of a sudden in 2010, it hit me and my company like a freight train. Like literally the phone just stopped ringing. The jobs that I had that I was bidding and the market changes and everything literally just turned off like a light switch. So in 2010, I don't remember what size we were, probably about 4 or 5 million in revenue. And I had to scale it way back. I had to move out of the shop I was in. We had gotten a little bit bigger each year, and I had to get a bigger shop, and I had more employees by then. And then I got throat punched by the recession, and it really humbled me. That was the first like big hit to the ego and big hit to the whole machine. And I had to scale way back. So that woke me up a little bit, but not enough. The ego was still pretty big, and the attitude and the arrogance. So I'm like, all right, I got it. We got to pivot, right, and get back in the game. So that's what we did. So we shrunk down, and then I recalibrated, and we started to grow again and again. And then in 2013, 2014, that's when I decided, as I started to pick up again, I'm like, all right, I got this. You know what I mean? Little recession, whatever, no big deal. So I started taking on more work again in construction, more work in the residential space, more work in commercial. So I had 3 different divisions in the core business. And then I decided like, okay, I've got all this figured out. So why not start up another company, which I did. So I started up another company that was more of a refrigeration company that does HVAC. So it was non-conflicting with evolution and ecotech refrigeration. So then I had all these irons in the fire. And then in 2017, I don't even really think it was market driven or economy or anything. It was just the universe, my arrogance, my lack of understanding business and systems and leadership and structure and process and all of the things you need to grow a business. Everything just crumbled. So I decided like, okay, I need to get out of this other relationship with 3 other partners. I mean, we did an amazing job there. We started that business from the ground up and we scaled it. But when we did that, I kind of lost focus on the core machine because, as entrepreneurs, shiny object, anything shiny, like, oh, let's go that way now, right? Pretty, go that way. Yeah. So I did that with the new business and new partners so I went over there for a few years. So that did really good. And then the core business kind of suffered and everything just fell apart. And I just felt it, saw it. I'm like, okay, I've been here before. This is much harder and much more excruciating financially, emotionally, physically. But I know, and this is going to hurt the ego. It's going to be, I'm going to get humbled again. I know this. I had to scale way down again. I had to exit out of the partnership sooner than I wanted to. But it was really good pain because that time around, it was finally now about 2017. I'm like, okay, now I can truthfully admit to myself that I don't know what in the hell I'm doing. I'm lost. So that's when I started searching like, okay, there's got to be some coaches, some training. I started reading books. I started looking for help. Like I'm not doing another like iteration of this disaster, of an economy or rescaling or restructuring the business. So it started with a group called Vistage. Have you heard of Vistage?
I have not, but definitely going to look them up after this call. But
Yeah, so they're kind of like EO. They're like a peer advisory board, kind of like a mastermind. So I don't know how I came across it. I think I just started Googling and talking to people, and someone told me, "Hey, why don't you check out Vistage?" So that's a group that you sign up for. They put you into a round table meeting once a month with 12 to 15 other executives and business owners, and you show up and you just like, you have to just get real. You just show up and with your financial reports and everything that's working and not working, and you just go to work on growth and improvement. And once I like dip my toes in the water or river of like development and learning and growth and getting help, I immediately got addicted, and I just went on this journey of self-discovery and personal development and education. I mean, I literally went to every seminar and summit. I've been in 4 or 5 different masterminds. I've had 5 or 6 executive one-on-one coaches. So I just immersed myself. So it's been an amazing journey. I've worked with people like Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, Sean Whalen, Ryan Stewman, and then a handful of other, coaches that aren't so glamorous, but are like real big names behind the scenes of people that are creating movement. So
the coaches behind the big name coaches.
Exactly. And I love it. And so my executive coach told me a couple of years ago, he's like, you're really a really good like leader. You're really motivating. You're a visionary. You're a good troubleshooter and analytical. You are the worst manager I have probably ever coached in my life. You need to get the hell out of managing people. You need to lead them and coach them within the framework of your own company, or you need to sell the company and just go be a coach. And I was like, okay, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't understand what he's even saying or meaning, right? So obviously that one of the most beautiful things about coaches is they see what we don't see, because as humans, we don't really see ourselves that well. So he just kept planting those seeds, and slowly over time, I got more mature with my leadership. I kind of, up-leveled my consciousness as I continued to do work with him and read and do all the stuff. And I finally began to see what he was seeing. So I started to shift my role in my own company from owner, boss, manager to I'm everyone's private coach and consultant within the framework or context of my own business. So once I started doing that and I started bringing people up and I built out a middle management team, and then I just acted as if I was their coach or consultant and got out of the way and learned a lot about tons of other stuff, as you know, in terms of business, things really started to take off. And I found myself just like reignited my passion and just motivated. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel now what Nikki had been telling me for a couple of years. So earlier this year, I decided to launch Blue Collar King and just go all in on my coaching journey. So that's where I'm at.
I love that. I love how two quote unquote failures in your business, I don't think they're failures. They're just the world and the universe coming to knock you down if you need it, because everybody needs to be knocked down a peg or two if they're
absolutely
their ego, they don't have that humility to counteract, led you to learning even more about yourself. Because the show is called Invest in Yourself. I'm always interested in how people invested in themselves, and this one is specifically about entrepreneurs. So when you start investing in your coaches and all that, and the masterminds and the groups and that, were you worried that you were maybe putting your money in the wrong group or wrong mastermind? Or when you said, screw it, going all in, if it's right, it's right, if it's wrong, it's wrong, but I'm still going to learn?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for me, I didn't really think that intelligently at first, like if this was the right group or the wrong group. I was so desperate. Like I was just like, I'll sell, my car. I'll take loans. I'll max out my credit cards. Like I don't care. Empty the savings account. The first thing I can find that looked like help, or smelled like help, I was like, okay, sign me up for your course. So when's the mastermind? When's the summit? When's the conference? Like I was just all in. I went all over the place. And then after a couple of years, I was like, okay, now I'm starting to learn that there's lots of different coaches with different styles. and their masterminds, follow them, of course, and their styles, but most importantly, their mastermind groups follow what their key strengths are. So I started realizing like some of these guys are really good at sales. Some of them are really good at operations. Some are really good at leadership. And I didn't really find one coach that was the 360 degree, holistic coach, if you will.
Mhm.
So I started realizing who was really good at which thing. And then once I got to a place where I felt, not that I had mastery, but I had a pretty good level of confidence in whatever that thing was, I was like, all right, cool. I can kind of drop out of this group now or slow the coaching down with this person. And now I need to really focus on this particular thing. So it took a while for me to figure out the whole coaching, mastermind, personal development game. But at first I was so desperate and hungry, I just went all over the place.
Usually you have to shoot a shotgun before you can become a sniper, right?
Exactly.
I love that, how you worked with as many coaches as you possibly could, and then once you figured out that, hey, I got a level of mastery, I'm gonna just scale back a bit until you're working with a coach, or at least a smaller number of coaches that work better for you and can help you reach those goals. And speaking of those goals, I would love to know, if I snap my fingers, we're 10 years in the future, Matt.
Yep.
What is Matt Mary, the blue collar king, probably the blue collar emperor by this time? What is,
Yeah,
Matt?
I like that. I might have to target for that. Put that on the map.
There you go. What is Matt doing? What is the blue collar king doing in 10 years from now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm 48 years old. I see the next 10 years of my life really growing the Blue Collar King brand so I can help others. I love coaching, as I said earlier. I'm super passionate about it. When people are struggling or have problems, like I just attract to them because I have a big heart and I want to help them. And I've been through so much pain and suffering. I want to help people collapse time, if you will. I think that's the job of a coach, is to help people get from where they want to go, from where they are and where they want to go much quicker. In terms of the core business, I think I'm going to stay in the CEO role for another 2 or 3 years. And then I'm going to either ESOP, I'll do a partial ESOP or a full ESOP of the company, depending on what the leadership team wants to do. We're going to start talking about that. We're actually going into strategic planning here next week for the core business. And we'll see what that looks like. But I don't foresee myself being, a CEO of a big company much more than about 2, maybe 3 years. And as we're talking here, I'm saying it probably more like 2 years. So I love the idea of possibly, having a board of directors, and I can coach other people and let them, be part of the entrepreneurial journey. I even tell people in the core business, like, I'm not here to be the owner. I have a model and a system that if people, depending on what growth path they're on or what their aspirations are, that I'm literally telling people all the time within our company, if you want to be a business owner, I'll show you how. Like, I will literally teach people how to go start their own business. So that's my mindset and that's my belief. So the next 10 years is just coaching and helping people and doing whatever with the business. I'm not really, it'll figure itself out.
I love that. I love that idea, because obviously you know what you're doing. 20 years in the business, crushing it and becoming the blue collar king. How did you come up with the blue collar king? I'm always interested in when people have their name, a unique name like Blue Collar King, Podcast Mogul. How did the Blue Collar King just pop into existence?
Yep. So it started with my wife. So my wife works in the company, and she's in sales. And for a while, I don't know if she did, or I think someone else called her the HVAC queen. So she had her Instagram handle, the HVAC queen, for a while. And then when I started looking at name, like I started thinking about the coaching biz, I don't know if it was Heather. I honestly don't know exactly where it came from. I didn't like create it myself. Someone else told me, like, you should just Heather's the HVAC queen, you should be the blue collar king. And I was like, is that tacky? Is it corny? Like, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I was the blue collar king. Like, at first it didn't, like, I wasn't like, like, wow, like blown away, like, what an amazing idea. And this is like crazy good. So it had to grow on me. And so I started looking online, like, is there anyone else like going by this identity, the blue collar king? There's a music band called the Blue Collar Kings, but no one else in the space had kind of latched on to this theme or brand name or identity. So it started to grow on me, and I like the idea of building kingdoms. So I love to operate kind of with a kingdom mindset, not only in business and leadership, but also on my spiritual side. So it kind of made sense, and I built a whole model and brand around that. So that's how it started.
I love it. I love how it just organically came.
Yeah.
And it had to grow on you before you were sold on it. So that's a great story. I am interested about advice because you are the blue collar king. You love giving advice. You love coaching. You love helping people. We probably do have a few listeners that are in the blue collar world, or thinking about jumping into entrepreneurialism, or maybe, need some help with their business. What's one piece of advice that you can give our blue collar workers or our aspiring entrepreneurs to be able to handle, the hardships that come with entrepreneurialism?
It's a great question. So here's what I recommend, and I don't say this because I do coaching. Go talk to somebody, a coach, if you can afford to hire one. Go hire a coach, but make sure you find and hire the right coach. Please vet them out. Ask them how long they've been doing what you want to do. Ideally, and you should be able to find someone if you poke around on Facebook or Instagram or some of the groups long enough, where you'll find an entrepreneur or a coach that will give you free advice. So I would recommend that you go out and seek out, many people that have already walked the path before you, that have been through the trenches, that have stepped on the landmines, that have been there, done that. And most specifically in your industry. Not to say that, I can coach someone in a different industry. I can and do, but it would be really good, and probably you'd be more attracted to someone and feel more confident if you're an electrician and you want to go start an electrical business. Go find an electrician that's already created built an empire, if you will, or someone else that's on that path that you can just talk to them and get your questions answered, and then have a strategy. Have a simple business plan with some financial goals and some financial metrics. Get yourself educated before you jump off the cliff. Build some miniature wings, if you will. Like me, every time there was a cliff, I'm like, hell yeah, let's jump, right? No parachute, no wings, no airplane. That's just how dumb I am, or how crazy I am. And I learned a lot the hard way with that mentality, but it doesn't have to be so painful. Just go get some help, and financial literacy is going to be very, very, very important. If I could rewind back in time before I jump ship, there's this book that I love. It's an accounting book. It's called Accounting Basics, right from the lemonade stand or something like that. And it's cartoon pictures, and it's very fundamental and very easy, but it's very powerful. It teaches you how to read and understand the balance sheet and the income statement and stuff like that. And if I would have gotten a little bit of training on the front end with finances and structure, and got a coach right off the bat, or at least a friend or someone to help me, I literally could have avoided years and years and years of pain and suffering, and saved myself millions of dollars. So that would be my advice.
I'm definitely going to take a look at that book. Because that seems like a book that everybody should have.
Everybody.
Oh God, the pictures, I think that's what's going to help me the most, because, you can read it and it's like, but you see a picture, you're like, oh, okay, that explains it.
Yeah, they explain it in layman's terms, or what I like to say in blue collar terms. You know what I mean? So us blue collar people can understand it and make sense of it. And now I can speak at with a controller level or CPA level. I fully understand the backbone and structure of accounting and double-sided accounting and all of this stuff. And not that I like it, I actually can't stand it, but I know it, and I can manage it, all from my cute little lemonade stand book. So
there you go. I love it. Matt, we are coming to the end, and I hate it because I'm having so much fun talking with the blue collar king himself about his journey. But I want to get a very personal question out of the way. As my audience knows, I'm writing a book for my nephew, who's 5 years old. So when he's 10, he can have all this great advice from entrepreneurs like yourself. And so I'm snapping my fingers. I have 10-year-old Matt right here beside me. He's raring to go to dad's garage and help out. But before he goes there, I want to know, what is the one piece of advice you want to hand off to your 10-year-old self?
Oh man, this is a deep one and this is hard. So let me think about this for a second here. I don't know how to portray this message or deliver it correctly so it'll be effective to a 10-year-old, but this is the thing that needs to happen. I think all children need to be provided space. Someone needs to give them allow them to express their feelings and tell the truth about what's working for them and what's not. I think today in society, people are told, and we're told as young children, like, don't be a crybaby, or big boys don't cry, or all this stuff, don't throw a temper tantrum or whatever. So I think it's very important. And I think there's a big problem today with teens and people in their 20s where they've had to suppress their emotions for so long. They're not allowed to express their feelings. So I don't know how you tell a 10-year-old that, but I'm going to figure it out now that you've brought this up and you're making me think really deep, right? So, and I would say, look to Jocko Willink. Do you know who Jocko Willink is?
Yeah, I do.
So he wrote some really good books for children. And in one of the books, he talks about Uncle Jake, right? Uncle Jake is the disciplined uncle. He's the guy that gets up in the morning and is healthy and works out and exercises and has goals and stuff like that. If I could say anything, is who's your Uncle Jake? Is it your dad? Is it your mom? And if it's not, if I was coaching a 10-year-old, I would say, hey, you know what? Understand that your parents are doing the best job they can, and give them some credit. Don't judge them so hard if they're doing some things you don't like, but maybe you can look online, or you got some other friends or dads or uncles that are doing some cool things that you like, that are the right things. Kids know what's right or wrong. I would say, like, just embrace what's right and talk to people about what's wrong. If I could just give a couple simple little nuggets, I think it would be that. Share your feelings, talk about your feelings, try to follow people that are doing the right thing. And I don't know, man. I think it's a deep question. You got me.
I know.
You got me a little stumped on this one.
The advice you gave is great advice. I think, especially for young boys, they need to understand that their feelings are validated, that they're allowed to share it. So I personally really resonate with that piece of advice, because I remember growing up, my godfather would say, "Suck it up, be a man." Men don't cry, and that, and I guess it stunted me in my growth as an individual, and as I'm learning to open up that box of emotions that were closed for so long. It is true. You do need to find someone that's able to express your emotions and
For sure.
Find those right things.
Yep.
So one, great, you answered it, even though it was a deep, hard question and that got you thinking. You answered it perfectly well, I think. And
Thank you.
it's a different piece of advice than I've gotten from other entrepreneurs, and that's why I asked this question, because
It's a good one.
it's one of my favorite questions. But with that said, Matt, I'm going to jump off screen. I want you to let my audience know where they can follow you, where they can connect with you, how they can support you if they want to support you. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for having me on today. If you would like to get in contact with me or check out what I'm doing, you can go to bluecollarking.com. You can also go to my Instagram page. It's The Real Blue Collar King. Shoot me a private message and I will send you a free copy of my new book that just came out, The Blue Collar King's Blueprint for Success. So thank you very much, everybody. Don't be shy. Reach out. Let's grow. I would love to talk to any of you that hear this. Shoot me a private message. Look me up on Facebook, my group, my website. Let's grow. And if there's any of you out there also that want some advice, that you're on the journey, and like what we talked about today on the podcast, and you're like, man, I'm sitting on the fence. Do I jump? Do I not jump? And you just want to talk to somebody and get your questions answered, please shoot me a message. I would love to share all my knowledge and experience, all the good things and all the bad. So thank you very much, everybody. And thank you for having me today.
Matt, it was my pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your great advice.
Thank you.
Now, to my audience, as you know, the show notes down below will have all the links to Matt to connect with him. I highly suggest you do take that offer of just chatting with him for a bit, because I think it's going to do you amazing. And plus, you get to talk to the blue collar king himself. That's soon to be the blue collar emperor down the road. But I want to thank you all for listening, and always remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.